non-home issues. And as I guess to start with, we're going to adopt some agenda. Could I have a motion then? We adopt the regular council agenda. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Your Worship. I'm wondering if we can add to the item, it's probably for close, but we can add an item or personnel issue for close.
Super, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with the current agenda, could I get a motion to adopt that? Councillor Holland, all in favor? Good to go, carried. Then the adoption of the minutes from the regular council meeting of February 25th. A motion to adopt those. Councillor Aries, Councillor Eisler, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, we do have up on the screen there our mayor and councillors meeting attendance in the last couple of weeks, and with Councillor DeBoon. Councillor Mayor DeBoon away. The Creston Valley Services Committee meeting on, I can't quite see it, my angle. And then over to the RDCK budget meeting. And financial guidance.
That's okay. The next one on the list, Mayor
The water sustainability.
The water sustainability planning workshop for Golden River Watershed.
Great, thanks very much. I brought my reading glasses, not my distance glasses. Yeah, exactly. You also love it. And then on to Councillor Iris.
Yeah, and then I had the library board meeting on February 27th.
And for me, I did the Creston Valley Forest Corporation, as always, and the Creston Valley Climate Action Society. Reports on those were filed. Councillor Dumas?
On February 27th, I attended the Cemetery Select Committee meeting, and March 3rd, Creston Valley Blossom Festival, and then March 6th, I also attended the workshop on the Goat River thing.
All right, we'll put that right
Workshop.
There you go. Councillor Hodney?
Okay, on February 27th, attended the Cemetery Select Committee meeting. On March 4th, the Creston Valley EAP meeting on behalf of Councillor Aries. And for interest, I went to the RDCK public budget meeting and felt very grateful for how our budget process goes for the town of Creston.
Too easy.
No, it's a good process we have in place.
Right. And any other? Councillor Holland? There you go. All right. If I could get a motion then to accept the verbal and written reports. Councillor Eisler, Councillor Holland, great. All in favor? That's carried. Thanks. Okay. We've got a couple of other reports. RDCK board highlights. That would be.
So council could just receive the RDCK board highlights.
But it was distributed. So
it was distributed.
Study for shared transportation for Creston nonprofit housing community.
Thank you. So this is just a receipt for information. This report was completed and provided to our Economic Action Partnership, and I just felt that this would be a good, effective way to get it to council so that you see the same information.
Great, thank you. So again, a motion that the report entitled Transportation Study for Nonprofit Housing Community dated March 11, 2005 from the Chief Administrative Officer be received for information, and that the report titled Exploring the Feasibility of a Shared Transportation Solution for Creston's Nonprofit Housing Community dated October 31st, 2024, authored by Mike Stoll on behalf of Creston Valley Kootenay Lake Economic Action Partnership, be received for information. Motion to? Councillor Holland, Councillor Dumas, all in favor? Passed. Well, at this point, we're going to shift gears a bit and we will, a motion to resolve into a committee of the whole. Motion please. Councillor Aries, Councillor Houghton, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. We have no delegations today, and we'll probably lead off, I guess, with Joel. If you can talk about, we've got several things to talk about. You've got the podium. First one will be regarding the farmers market.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. So over the past number of years, we've been doing a lot of work at the Kootenai site, Market Park. The farmers market's been located there, really. And the costs that are now ours of washroom maintenance and that sort of thing. So this report outlines the cost of the town is incurring in order to support the market in that location. Overall, the electricity costs are around $120, and the cost of the garbage collection is $1,215. So really, it comes down to council's discretion whether you're looking to do cost recovery when considering another license of occupation, or if you're wanting to continue the status quo, providing the space for $1.
Questions for Joel? That's so fun.
If I'm just looking at, I mean, the electricity is not much at all, and it seems that the garbage is the biggest one. Is there an opportunity for the farmers market to be able to take care of the bins themselves?
Possibly. The garbage it's not just at the site though. So it's that site is where it's concentrated the most, and then we have to do extra pickups around the area too. So all in all, it's around a half hour of time with somebody with a truck to go and grab the stuff. So it's an option, and if you want us to look into that, we can.
As an option to offer to them.
Councillor Houghton?
Have we not always done that garbage collection, or has there been a shift because it's now
No,
a change site?
we have generally done the garbage collection.
So that's not a new number that we're dealing with.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's far.
I just want to say, like, in my opinion, I don't see a reason for a change. I think anything that we have that brings people into our downtown and spills over into other businesses is what we're trying to market. But I understand the cost recovered, like trying to figure out where that sits in the budget. But I feel like the farmers market like fills downtown. So I would be opposed to changing it.
Councillor Dumas?
I agree with Councillor Eisler. Looking at the report and the social value of having the farmers market at a Kootenai, I'd like to see it. I'd stay at that $1.
Okay. Well, with some discussion in advance, we do have a motion prepared, and I can read it out, see if everybody feels. And again, we are in committee as a whole, so it's different, a little bit more flexible. And at the end of that, we're not raising our hands, we're just nodding in agreement. So the recommended motion is that the report titled Farmers Market 2025 License of Occupation Town Costs, dated March the 11th, 2025, from the Manager of Community Planning and Development be received. And the council directs staff to draft a license of occupation permitting the Creston Valley Food Action Coalition to use the 2024 Creston Valley Farmers Market site at Kootenai for the upcoming 2025 market season, with an associated annual license fee of $1 for council consideration at an upcoming meeting.
Yeah.
The only, if I can just comment on one thing here, it doesn't say anything about future years, which was part of an application, but that will come up at a regular meeting. That would be correct?
Yep.
Great. So we're good to go on that. Thank you. Joel, you're still up.
Yeah, so the second report here is a request for a parks booking for the Hop Divine Hustle, which has been a increasingly successful event in town for the last couple of years. This year, they're asking for permission to expand capacity up to 500 people, which is one person short of meeting the requirements of invoking our special events bylaw. So it's getting quite large, and that's great. So really, does council want to see any changes to that before we return with the parks booking for approval at the next meeting?
Councilor Dumas.
The report looks great, and I don't want to see any changes. I'm wondering if we could possibly add sponsorship. There's the sponsorship letter that's at the end, and
Sorry, Councilor Hodge.
So just in reading through what that increased capacity numbers of people are, just their understanding their need to bring in additional porta potties, water sources, probably generator support, and also around the policing considerations. What exactly does that look like? Like it mentions in there, when we reach a group that size, that policing considerations beyond a security company are required. So just are they understanding of all of that when they're asking this?
They know where they sit in terms of being just underneath the requirement for those things.
Oh, so they're under that.
Yes, 500. One.
Yeah.
Okay. That was my typo error in my head reading that then.
It's a near thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Request at an upcoming council meeting. You good with that?
Yeah.
Great, thanks. Okay, this one will be over to Creston, and regarding the council direction request from regarding updates to the delegation of authority bylaw.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is mostly a housekeeping issue. So there are two items. The first item is signing authority. So at our very first inaugural meeting, by resolution, we assigned signing authority to two members of council and then Chief Administrative Officer, Corporate Officer, and Director of Finance and Corporate Services. When I was doing a review of the delegation of authority bylaw, I noticed that we hadn't included it in the bylaw where it properly belongs to formally provide those people with that authority. So the first amendment is quite simple, and it just basically reiterates what our resolution on November 8th said, so that the mayor and appointed member of council, CAO, corporate officer, and director of finance and corporate services will be authorized signatories. So that's the first amendment. And then the second amendment is just the delegation of purchasing powers. So council has purchasing policies, which delegate staff the power to make purchases under $75,000, with everything over $75,000 coming to council. So this is just matching that as well and referencing our purchasing policy in our bylaw to make sure that we're completely aligned throughout our bylaws and our policy and resolution.
This was the other question I was going to ask before we started. You just mentioned two councillors. Is it one councillor?
The mayor and an appointed member of councillor.
Right, so that's the amendment. It wasn't two.
It is, so right now it's, in our resolution, it's the mayor and it's yourself at the second signing authority.
So yeah.
So it's the same. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
No, that's okay, good
All
question.
right. I guess basically we're at the stage of the report titled Delegation of Authority by Law dated March 11th, 2025 from the corporate officer be received. And further, the council directs staff to prepare an amendment to the Delegation of Authority bylaw number 1855-2017. Good? Housekeeping, Dan?
Just,
Oh.
I just noticed a few times you talk about town manager and sometimes it's in red as CAO. So there were still a few more
Oh,
times where
thank
that's
you.
not
I'll catch
captured.
those. Yeah.
And I'm
Good catch.
nitpicky, but I did write that down.
Yeah, no, that's actually
Yeah.
helpful. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
All right, I think we'll move back into a regular committee meeting. I'd like a motion to rise from committee as a whole. Councillor Holland, Councillor Houghton, all in favor? We're back up. Okay, the council action list was circulated to everyone. Does anybody have any changes or errors and omissions? Okay, so I'd just like a motion that council action list be received. Councillor Isler, Councillor Dumas, all in favor? That's good. Carried. Now, Mike will be on deck for a request regarding an update on the organizational assessment report, which again was circulated to all of you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I wanted to be able to provide an update on that. Organizational assessment was presented to council in mid-November, I think it was. So there's been a fair bit of activity, pretty much in all the recommendations, well, not all, but I mean, I was able to group them together. Some are really contingent on others. So it sort of gives you a little bit of a little bit of insight that when we get reports like that done, that they're just not sitting on a shelf and we're not doing anything with them. Probably the only one thing that's probably going to change a little bit is there was a number of recommendations regarding organizational structure and a little bit of restructuring. I did put Q3 2025 for that. That's likely going to take place in early Q2 2025. So I'm going to move that up a little bit. And no, I mean, just timing is when I was writing it a week ago, believe it or not, there's things changed in a week. That made me go, well, there's an opportunity that we should probably, from an organization standpoint. So that's probably the only change there. And, maybe council had any other questions related to any of the items on there.
Any questions on? Oh, Karen.
In those little triangles that says like 2 or 3, are those the quarters or
No.
are those like risk or scoring?
Sorry, those are priority numbers to me.
Okay.
So when I went through, I put priority numbers on each of the recommendations. And so the ones, if you go through now, knowing that the ones you'll see were ones that we brought forward into the budget cycle immediately, and because they were priority to the organization. The 2s were kind of the next step items, and 3s, down the list. I think I only did 1, 2, and 3 on there. I also did the tags that are on there, which was really helpful for me as well. Was I tagged having a copy of it and being able to receive it. That a number of them, because they tie so tightly, say to that report there. Now that I have that, I'm going to be able to bring all the technology items up and be able to update those appropriately. We're probably going to move forward and adjust it. So yeah, so the numbering. Sorry, I didn't explain that on there, but.
On to finance and administration. Director of Finance will be here in a second with a request regarding the 5-year financial plan bylaw. Devin?
Sure.
Or do you? You can say it.
Yeah, this one's rather easy. There's no changes since we did third reading on the 25th of February. And if council has any questions regarding the budget, I can answer them right now. But my recommendation is to do the adoption.
Okay, we're in agreement on that. And the recommended motion number 1 is that the report titled 5-Year Financial Plan Bylaw number 2018-2025, dated March the 11th, 2025, from the Director of Finance and Corporate Services be received. Motion 2. Councillor Holland, Councillor Houghton, all in favor? Good. It's carried. And the second motion is that the 5-Year Financial Plan Bylaw number 2018-2025 be adopted. Motion 2, Councillor Dumas, Councillor Aries, all in favor? Good, carried on that. And well, we've got you. Let's see this kind of.
As Mike said, the IT consultant's report is going to be officially released, but we did have one of the biggest recommendations was to reorganize our IT infrastructure. It's sort of, as we've talked about, we were sort of not in an inflexible environment. By getting our own system back and being able to, we'll be much more able to adapt and change to our needs much quicker. And it also gives us ownership over our data again. And so those are two very significant changes. So what we'll do is have our own servers here, and then we will also have a contract for offsite backup that's located in Canada to meet our privacy, freedom of information privacy standards. And we will also be needing a company to take care of our network for us, do all our software updates, manage all our security. And, this contract is all inclusive in terms of the licensing and the security licensing, as well as the offsite storage. When we add it all together, we have this, a little bit of a bulge of capital spend this year, but if it's all lasts about 5 years, so we divide up that capital spend over those 5 years, and we compare it to what we're spending with our current contract, it's about the same. So it's not a real big change in our budget. It's just sort of a bit of a timing of this capital expense this year is definitely a bit of a thing, but we do have all the cost changes included in our 2025 year finance. Which we just passed. And so we've had the contract looked at by our legal counsel, and they felt it was fine. There was some issues that we brought up with them, smaller things, and we've had them change a few items in the contract. So at this point, we believe it's time to proceed and sign the contracts. And this time, are there any questions regarding the change in the contract?
I'm just curious, no local option to consider, like a local entity, or are we looking at this contract because they specifically work with municipal governments?
Yes, they cater to governments. That's their primary business. They do over 20 local governments, and so our financial system, they're very well aware and service that for us, our fire system, and of course all the email and everything. Any one does, but we do feel very comfortable having the support for our specialized teams with software.
That's nice.
Any other questions on that? I had one question, and that was about Sentry. Could you tell me a little bit about what Sentry is? Because that was
The Sentry, that's what they call their sort of their security package and services. So that's where they, the firewalls, all of the monitoring, so virus monitoring, screening.
so it's not incremental to what RDCK was doing.
Yeah, you know what? I think there's going to be improvements. I think we're going to have service improvements, and like I said, that also includes the offsite backup and hot backup actually. So if we're able to be safe out there, and so we're quite confident that we are going to have the servers in a responsible, good place. And we used to have it here, and this being a wood frame structure and everything, there's definitely a higher fire risk. You know, if something happened, and so we're feeling quite confident that it's a good solution what we're doing.
And just to add to that, because again, this recommendation came from the IT review verbally as soon as the review was done. That, you know, there's two real key recommendations. I won't get into the second one, but one that he felt was very important for us to get started on right away. It has progressed a little bit faster than we even anticipated, so that's why we're here today with the contract. You know, when we first started out, we were thinking maybe June, but things are moving quickly. But just to answer a couple of questions is that, so the IT, the consultant did the review, or when he did the review for us, he looked at three options: staying where you are from a managed service perspective, going to a managed service to a third party, which this is, and doing it in-house and or locally, and so the third party managed service. And then he checked into the services that's provided by Sea to Sky and recommended to us that Sea to Sky would have been the way to go for many of the reasons that Stefan outlined, their experience with local government, how they're structured, you know, and he followed up with a number of local governments. They do about 20. And he followed up on the service levels and expectations and whatnot. And so, you know, he kind of really said that that's, for all intents and purposes, that this was the organization to go with, at least until we get everything back in. So after this contract, there's a couple of things that it'll allow us is to make some different decisions once we have our services back in-house, the way that they need to be structured, and whether or not we stay with Sea to Sky or we look at another managed service. You know, we have options at that point, but that transition was as Stefan mentioned, getting our financial software off that server and then back onto ours is actually a fairly monumental task. And so, it's not that we didn't have ownership of it, but it was not necessarily entirely in our control. And so that was really the key recommendation, putting the data back into your control in your facilities. Yeah. And so, and that's one of the things that's moved us up is that we feel that this is going to happen fairly quickly. But I just wanted to let you know that the consultant did review all of this, and that was his recommendation that you guys, unfortunately, will see next week. Just got the final report. Is that Sea to Sky was highly recommended for this process.
Any other questions? Okay, well then, I'd just like to get a recommended motion that the report titled IT Service Contract with Sea to Sky dated March 11, 2025 from the Director of Finance and Corporate Services be received for information. And further, that Council authorizes the Mayor and Corporate Officer to execute the services agreement between Sea to Sky Network Solutions and the Town of Creston to provide managed IT services for a period of 3 years commencing on March 31st, 2025. Motion 2, Councillor Ayres, Councillor Eisler. All in favor? The 2, thanks, carried. Creston, we'd like to talk a little bit about the BC Air Access Program on the application.
Sure. So as you're aware, HM Aero is currently working on the airport master plan, which council will actually see next week at a special committee of the whole meeting. As part of this process, it was identified that the Creston Valley Regional Airport needs a backup generator. So our consultant has, on behalf of the town of Creston, put together a grant application for an 80 kilowatt diesel backup generator to make sure that in the event of any power outage, that services can be continued. As you know, our airport is in a critical location, so we don't want to have periods that are inoperable. So the grant request going forward is $126,960. BCAAP funds 75% of that, with the remainder of the funding, I believe, would come under the RDC Airport Service budget. So we just need to be able to submit a council resolution that authorizes us to submit it, which is presented to you in your recommended motion.
Okay, well, let's move it forward then. Recommended motion two, that the report title, Support for BCAAP Grant for Airport Backup Generator for Creston Valley Regional Airport, dated March the 11th, 2025, be received. And further, the council authorizes staff to submit a funding application to the BC Air Access Program for up to $126,960.88 to provision the Creston Valley Regional Airport with an 80 kilowatt backup generator. Motion two. Councillor Harris, Councillor Holland, all in favor? Good to go. Carried on that. For you, we'll talk about, Creston, we'll also talk about the lease regarding disposition of 140 10th Avenue.
No, Councillor.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yes, right. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I, Councillor Dumas, wish to declare at this time that I'm not entitled to participate for this reason stated.
Thank you, Councillor. My apologies for not before we started talking.
Marsha will come.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Council. So at this time, I have a lease in front of you, which is the draft lease between the town of Creston and Iron Soul Fitness, which proposes a 5-year term lease for the old fire hall building for an annual rate of $23,907.75. Built into this is a 2% annual increase each year for the initial 5-year term. There is an option to renew after 5 years. At that time, we would renegotiate the lease rate at fair market value, and it would come before council again. So Iron Soul Fitness is responsible for paying for the leaseholder improvements, charges for garbage removal, janitorial, electrical, natural gas, telephone, GST, and property taxes. So the recommendation in front of you, if council is willing, is that the report is received and that council authorizes the mayor and corporate officer to execute the lease agreement between the town of Creston and Iron Soul Fitness for the property located at 140 10th Avenue North, pursuant to the provisions of Section 26 of the Community Charter. So Section 26 of the Community Charter, this means that I have the disposition twice in the Creston Valley Advance, where posted information is presented to you today.
Okay, so you probably don't need to read the motion again. Do you have any questions about this? We've been through this before, but that's good. Okay. I can just I'll state it again. You actually did say every word.
Okay.
So all in favor? That's what I said. That's what all in favor. Mary? And we're going to get into some discretionary grant application. And
Sorry, we'll just wait for Councillor Dumas to.
Sure, that's a good point. Thank you. I'm new here. Just arrived on this planet. which are discretionary grant applications. And I'll pass it off to Creston, but we'll perhaps lead off with what we have on our discretionary grant.
So currently in our discretionary grant fund, we have $3,400 remaining. The first discretionary grant before you is the BC Senior Game Society. And they have requested $300. That request is a little bit less than they did last year. So last year we did authorize them $400. So if council feels comfortable making a recommendation, we can afford that.
Yep. Councillor Eisler, seconded by Councillor Martin. Any discussion?
I'm just curious what sports are going, what sports are they?
I think it's all kinds of sports. So if my understanding is correct, and I'm not fully up to game on the senior games, but I think they send a complement of people who do different things and they participate throughout. Usually they send us a report at the end of summer games, and you can actually see who is doing what.
Okay. Good.
Okay, so
I'd like to know if we were supporting golf or tennis player.
something exotic. Okay, so the recommended motion is the council authorizes a discretionary grant in the amount of $400 to the BC. 300. I wasn't clear in the conversation. Thank you. In the amount of $300 to the BC Senior Games Society, Zone 7. All in favor? There we go. That's carried. It gets harder from here.
So your next application is from the Creston Valley Minor Hockey League. They're traveling all the way to Kitimat this year for the provincials, and they have requested $2,000. Historically, we have really capped our discretion.
But
It's still a
I'm
large.
just trying to remember what, like, when we did one for volleyball teams under provincials, and that was kind of an end of the year thing, so I think we had a little bit more.
Yeah, I think we give a little bit more that time.
Right.
A lot of times for travel requests, it ends up being around $500. So I would
Does
say,
$500 seem reasonable? Councillor Houghton, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I just, doing a little bit of math. Yeah, it's really expensive to go there and I get that. But with, they've had some successful fundraising. And if we were to give them that $2,000, they'd actually, each player and family unit would be funding $714. I think that's pretty reasonable when you put your child into sport. You anticipate I agree
Do you have,
with 500. Yeah,
does
maximum.
everybody feel okay with that? Somebody like to make a motion then, Carol?
Yeah, I will make that motion. I think you actually started it as a motion. We make that motion.
Cotton Eisler, making it happen. All right. Then the council authorizes a discretionary grant of $500 to the Creston Valley Minor Hockey U15 team to support their participation at the U15 Tier 4 Minor Hockey Provincials in Kitimat, BC. All in favor?
Yeah.
Carried. Thanks. That's good. So we're down to what, 2,600? Approximately.
yes, quick math, but yeah, 2,600. Our final discretionary grant application is from Bleeding Tree Film Society for $3,000 in support of the Bleeding Tree Film Festival that they came last, February 25th, they provided delegation. We're planning to do that over May 2nd and 4th. And I might actually take it over to Stefan to talk a little bit about rules of money.
Yeah, we do. One that was actually used quite a bit more was the Mayor's Discretionary Fund with Mayor Toyota. I believe Mayor DeBoon really didn't use it last year, but I don't think he was actually, to be honest, totally aware of it. It's $2,000 that is available for unforeseen things, whichever, that it's up to they call it mayor's discretionary, but it definitely council does have say in those. And also the council advertising fund does have some ability for council to support local. We would be on the program, all that advertising. So there's, and as well, of course, the discretionary grant pool, which is now $2,600.
Do we know how much is in the advertising?
I believe it's 10,000, and we haven't really allocated much yet. Typically in the past, say there was the Selkirk Loop,
Right.
and the chamber visitors guide, and some other Kootenai tours.
You can give them, or we can give them the full $3,000 from a variety of sources, possibly, but their business case failed to kind of make.
The council's advertising budget and then referral to the Creston Valley Services Committee.
Yeah, I can make that motion.
Seconder? That's varies. Discussion?
Yeah, I just want to, so it is like a bigger ask than a lot of things, but it could be a real.
Or is 1,500 on the uptime?
Recommendation to go to users.
Exactly. Okay. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay. We're going to go to Director of Infrastructure Services and regarding the service agreement for the biosolids application.
I will step in for Ferd on this one.
Yeah.
Ferd unfortunately was not able to make it this afternoon. The current situation for that 53 acres is that it's leased out, and it does not give the town access to the property. The main reason for the town owning that land in these past while has been to make it available for a solids application from the wastewater treatment plant byproducts. And we also have 80 acres on the flats and some other land, but you can only put so much on the land and then we have to rotate it. And so what we need to do is have that land available for when we need to. And so this new agreement is similar. There are some rental incomes, but it also allows, we do not give the right of way to be able to land apply. And it also, this person, Bridges and Farms, already does land application on the other areas for us. And they've been a good contractor. And so it makes sense for us to not tie up the block of land as just a regular land lease. So that's why we're recommending to switch this.
Any questions for Stephanie? We've had this discussion before. So, well, let's take the recommended motion that the report titled Service Agreement, Gudgeson Farms, dated March 11th, 2025, from the Director of Infrastructure Services be received, and the Council authorizes the Mayor and Corporate Officer to execute the agreement between the Town of Creston and Gudgeson Farms for the application of biosolids. Motion 2. Councillor Eisler, Councillor Holland, second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, on to the bylaws. This would be from the manager of building and bylaw. I see him over there.
Offer free licensing to those who adopt animals through a pause program. With that, are there any questions on that? Dog and cat adoptees with the letter signed by a pause personnel or Creston staff.
Perfect. Okay. I'm going to break that down into 3 steps then. The report titled Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw number 1763, 2024, really 2025, be read a first time by title and a second time by content. Motion 2, Councillor Holland, Councillor Eisler, all in favor? Carried, thank you. And then finally, that fees and charges bylaw number 2026-2025 be read a third time by content. Councillor
Overall, our restrictions mirror theirs, and in some cases are actually more restrictive. So that is that. If there's any questions on that, I'm going to address them for.
Okay, well, let's move through that then. And we're not doing this as a bylaw, so, and the council resolves to opt in to the provincial short-term principal rental residence requirement, and further that council directs staff to notify the Minister of Housing of their decision prior to the March 31st, 2025 deadline. Motion 2. Councillor Eisler, Councillor Aries. Discussion?
I'm just sad. I really like booking Airbnbs and VRBOs. So
And the next piece is a really a housekeeping item. Around that time in our bylaws, where there's lots of 2024s and 2025s and 2021s and 2012s, and we got a 2 and a 1 mixed up back in March, or I'm sorry, back in January, where we adopted bylaw 2012, a bylaw that we had just adopted in December, earlier that year, so in the year prior. Interestingly enough, that bylaw was then subsequently quickly overwritten that second adoption of bylaw 2012. That was made in error, and further that bylaw number 2021 not be adopted.
I'm sure something could get mixed up if we did. And the council rescinds resolution 2025 from the regular January 14th, 2025 council meeting, which reads as follows: that fees and charges amendment bylaws number 2020-12-2024 be adopted, and that fees and charges all in favor? We're carried. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't want to have to try to explain it myself. And actually, while you're up here, if you could talk about the housing accelerator funding or lack thereof.
Yeah, exactly. This is an informational report, basically outlining that we were unsuccessful in our application for Housing Accelerator Fund 2 funding, which was the second round of Housing Accelerator Fund funding that was made available. This was a smaller pool of around 400 million as compared to the original, I think it was 4 billion.
Okay, just a quick motion to that the report titled Housing Accelerator Fund 2 Application Unsuccessful, dated March 11th, 2025, from the Manager of Community Planning and Development be received for information. Motion 2, Councillor Dumas, Councillor Eisler, all in favor? Carried. That's great. Looking back then at some recommendations from our last committee of the whole meeting. Follows. The council receives the February 25, 2025 council direction request titled Opting into the for council consideration, and further that council directs staff to prepare a council resolution and request for decision for council consideration of opting into the provincial principal residence requirement. Motion two, Councillor Ayres. Councillor Dumas. Any questions? Discussion? All in favor? We're carried. And we just do some correspondence. Okay, this first one has to do with the BC Farmers Market, correspondence regarding their nutrition coupon program for 2024. Creston,
I think that sums it up. We get this letter every year. They just report back on how much coupon value was redeemed within the community. So last year it was 21,498. And they just also requested that we write a letter of support for continued program. So I have included that in the motion ahead of you. We've done that pretty much every year.
so that is, there's not a financial ask, it's just a summary of their accomplishments. So the motion is that council authorizes the mayor to write a letter in support of the BC Farmers Market Nutrition Coupon Program to the Honorable Josie Osborne, Minister of Health. Motion two, Councillor Eisler, Councillor Holland, all in favor? Carried, that's great. And the following items, just the first one actually for the city of Abbotsford. I think that the deadline is actually kind of passed for that particular request. It's happening right now at the meeting that His Worship's at. But that was requesting support for UBCM resolution regarding infrastructure support for some specified municipalities, and the letter didn't specify which municipalities. And so you've all read that. Then also there was a referral notice from Canadian Forest Products. They weren't in any of our areas, so it was just again for our notice. And so if I could get a motion that the following correspondence be received as follows: the City of Abbotsford and the Canadian Forest Products Limited referral notice. Sorry to shorten that down. Be received. Close. There we go. Councillor Ayres, Councillor Holland, I'll try to get you in first next time because you're always up there. So, all in favor? Thanks. Carried. Quick one on the acting mayor schedule. March, it's me. April, Councillor Dumas. May, Councillor Eisler, and Councillor Houghton for June. And it just goes on tonight and after that. So, before we break into closed, quick opportunity for question period for those of you that are here. Anything that I can't answer, of course. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming. It's great to have everybody involved. It's much better than talking just into the internet. But for those of you on the internet, see you next week. Okay, so we're now going to recess and move into a closed meeting. And 'll read the whole thing. I'm sorry. I should.
We have to do it right before we go close. Yes.
Five p.m. And by the authority of the community charter, council will move to a closed council meeting. With this meeting being closed from the public.
10 minutes. That's not a